This morning was really, really special. This was ooh, this was loaded. Have you ever felt like have you ever gotten a muscle cramp? Everybody has had muscle cramps, and sometimes I've had a muscle cramp in my toes, where just a toe is a muscle in my foot is cramping, and it hurts, but it's nothing like a large muscle leg cramp. Oh, that can just like paralyze you. Ooh, wow. Ooh, you got to get up and you got to get that muscle relaxed and stretched out, or it's just gonna overtake your whole body in pain. Just one muscle can just freeze your whole body, all the other muscles. But did you know that we can have soul cramps? Did you know that our soul could just in one little area get a cramp, and our entire soul can just like focus on that cramping in that little corner of our soul? That's what I learned this morning. This is going to be awesome. So, sitting with Daddy, Big Daddy. In case you haven't ever watched one of these videos, Big Daddy is who I refer to. He's big and he's my daddy. He is the creator of all that there is. He is the magnificent, most high one. He is the father of Yeshua, HaMashiach. And he's gracious enough to extend himself to all of us, so that those of us that so choose to make him our father, he will be that to us. So Big Daddy is who he is to me. So when I say Big Daddy, now you know. Big Daddy is Big Daddy. So I'm sitting with Big Daddy, which is something that I just have to do every morning, first thing. I was late going to bed last night because I was talking with someone on the phone kind of late, way later than normal, and they were having a soul cramp. And really and truly, this person who is near and dear to me, was their entire soul was cramped. It was, and it took a lot of talking and sharing with things that Big Daddy has shared with me over many years to get their soul relaxed. So I was really up late last night, but it was fun. And I had no idea this was coming. It's my laptop, and I'm going to read something to you. So after that, counseling this person through the totally cramped soul getting into a relaxed position, this is what I got this morning. It's kind of weird, but Big Daddy's weird from our perspective. I mean, he's not weird, but we're weird, so we see him as weird because we're weird. We live in this system. He lives in his system. His system is wow. It's awesome. It's undescribable. But this system we live in down here, woo, it's weird. But we perceive him as being very different than us, which is true. Now, so I go to him, and he did something which is kind of normal for him, but it seemed weird to me. He pointed out Psalm 143. So I'm like, okay, and I'm perusing my software scriptures here. It's an interlinear software package where it has the Hebrew words that you can click on and expand those Hebrew words and get greater depth of meaning of the Hebrew word. And he took me to the very last verse of Psalm 143. Psalm 143, verse 12. The last verse. And that was just odd. I mean, I can't recollect ever when I sat down with him and he directed me to go somewhere and look at the very last verse of anything. But that's what happened. And you'll see why in a minute. So, in this Psalm 143, verse 12, it starts out with one of my favorite, Hebrew words. It's certainly one of my top 5, maybe top 3, but it may be my favorite. I haven't really ranked them. Of the Hebrew words that I know, the little teeny tiny number of Hebrew words that I know, this one Hebrew word, chesed. That word is so full, and it's been one of my favorites for many, many years. And that's how this verse, the last verse of Psalm 143, which would be 142 in the Tanakh, if you're reading a Tanakh with chapter and verse. Chesed is basically the best way that I can describe it to you in English is chesed is the Father's loving kindness. We're going to learn a lot about that as we go through this. In your loving kindness, you shall, and this word is, I've got a little notification. Ding, ding. In your loving kindness, you shall consume or cut off or destroy or make disappear the ones that make themselves my adversaries. The ones who make themselves enemies against me, in your loving kindness, Big Daddy, you just back them off of me. And you destroy all of the ones being my foes. That is what I want us to look at. Because when I saw that, your loving kindness, it kind of backs off those that set themselves as being my adversary. And you destroy the ones that are my foes. So I'm like, well, that's two different things. You would think they're the same, but hey, let's look at the ones being my foes. And let's take a look at that word, and it is, boom, sarar, and it means to cramp. Literally or figuratively. Transitive or intransitive. That means, it means in all forms, wherever it's used, to cramp. This is going to be good. Woo! You ready for this? I'm a happy boy this morning. Now, the word after that in this verse, in your loving kindness, you shall push back, get rid of those that set themselves as adversaries against me. And you shall destroy all of the cramping ones that seek to cramp my soul. The next word is nephesh. I believe that's how we pronounce it. Yeah, nephesh. Not nephesh. Nephesh. And it's basically our soul. See, those that are adversarial against us as people, against our beings, against our physicality, but there are those also that come after our soul to cramp or put our soul in a cramped position. Our soul, our nephesh, it means, well, it's our soul. There's a lot to our soul, our feelings, our emotions. I'm not answering that. All right. Hold on. I'm just going to click this. I'll call you back. So, there are those that want to set themselves up as our enemies, our adversaries against us. They don't like us for whatever reason. They hate us. You know, there are people that just because you're one of Daddy's children, they hate you. You know, some people are just that filled with hate, just that controlled with hate. It's the opposite of love. Big Daddy is love. Big Daddy is light. Those that hate us are hate-filled, dark-filled ones. It's just how it is. There are those that come after us as our adversaries, after our bodily personage, and then there are those that come after us from we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against spiritual entities, spiritual forces. And this phone call was the lady that I was talking to last night that had her soul all cramped up. So I'll call her back. Wow, you were awesome. You were awesome last night. Somebody very near and dear to me that I've known a very long time. Okay, let's get back to this. This is fun. In your loving kindness, Big Daddy, you shall push back those that want to push against me as my enemies. You destroy all of those spiritual forces that are at war with my soul and seek to cramp my soul. Just like when you have a muscle in your body cramp, all the other muscles kind of focus on getting that muscle in a relaxed state and out of a cramped state, because it is very painful, especially a large muscle in your leg or in your back gets cramped. Your whole entity wants to get that muscle out of crampedness. It wants to get that muscle relaxed. Likewise with our soul. There are those opposing forces that want to attack and do something to cause a cramp in our soul. And if in our soul, our feelings, our emotions, our will, our desires, our intellectual process, the actual thinking, the computer that we have up here, all those different aspects of our soul, if they can just get one little piece of that soul to go into cramp mode, then all the rest of the soul will focus on that cramp, and it can just turn us into a mess. But Big Daddy is loving kindness. And through your loving kindness, you back off those that are my enemies. They made themselves my enemies. You destroy those that come against my soul to cause it to cramp and lock me up. Because I am one that loves you. I love my Big Daddy. Loving kindness. When we think of loving kindness, we think of tender, merciful, sweet, enjoyable, but His loving kindness is all of those things, but it is also a force. See, if you're His, it's all of those things. If you're against His, it's a force that backs you up. And we have an opportunity to just stand. Just like little children. Stand in His loving kindness. When we take the very first part of our day, every day, and we just invest it in sitting with Him, He's in His dimensionality. We're down here locked in the universe's dimensionality, and He's calling to all of us. He's calling to all of us. And when we stop and turn and respond to His call, and especially the first part of our day when we sit with Him and we get to know Him and we get to understand His chesed, His loving kindness, and how forceful it is, and how we can just be one with Him and just let His loving kindness do the job. It's His fight. We're just to be the singers and the little children. And when we stand in His loving kindness, we get the enjoyment of just watching our enemies, those that have made themselves our enemies. We didn't make them our enemies. They made themselves our enemies. They're our enemies because they are our enemies. But we get to enjoy just sitting and watching the loving kindness of our Father work as a force to move them back, and possibly even through that force, maybe one who has set him or herself up as our enemy turns and recognizes His loving kindness and turns to Him. And therein, an enemy, someone who set themselves up as an enemy of us, His little children, becomes His little child. Whoa. You see? Now, the spiritual forces that are against us, there's no hope for them. But for people that are our enemies, maybe if we just stand in Big Daddy's loving kindness, maybe they'll see something or hear something that causes them to stop and turn and want to know the source of this force that is so loving and kind. That's called being salt and light. Being well. See, when we give the first part of our day every day to Daddy, we grow and we learn. And we become well ones. The more we grow in Him, the more we attach ourselves to His loving kindness, His tender mercies, which are a huge attractant to those who have set themselves up to be our enemies. How do you know that this enemy is not going to tomorrow be your brother or your sister? If you take a position of being in a state of wellness, shalom. That projecting of his loving kindness, his peace, his joy, his gentleness, his goodness. That can uncramp someone's soul and cause them to totally be changed. I told you this was good. Woo! Was it good? Yeah, it was good. Thank you, Daddy. You're an awesome daddy. Hey, hear what the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit, the breath of our Father is saying to his called out ones. And be well.